Good day to you. My name is Tony Ballinger from the Fighting Men of Rhodesia YouTube series. My guest today is Wayne Stevenson. He gave us a very good and interesting talk in episode 157, which I encourage you to go back and listen to. But the thrust of this talk today is about the Entumbane battles that happened in Bulawayo after Rhodesia became Zimbabwe. This talk will be one in a trilogy or even more of the talks of the battles in Entumbane. Wayne is going to be talking about the second battle, which happened in 1981. And so, Wayne, hello to you. How are you doing?
Well, thanks, Tony. How things your side?
Very good. Chatting off screen, we were saying you up there in Scotland, you started the day off with a lot of fog, and I started with my usual dose of cloud, but it's lovely blue sky outside at the moment, so everything's chirpy.
Good.
And before we begin the talk on the Entumbane battles, I would like to just briefly go over a couple of things from your first talk. If you could give the audience a brief overview of where you were born and raised, and you served in 3 battalions, didn't you? Was it 1 2nd and 9 or 1 whatever?
No, Tony, I was after my national service, I went to 2nd Battalion. I was transferred up to Salisbury, and I was then posted to 1st Battalion for 2 years, and then in '68 back to Bulawayo, where I was went to join 9th Battalion. So yes, I've done 1, 2, and 9.
1, 2, and 9. Which do you feel was the nicest or most comfortable for you?
Well, the 2nd Battalion was actually quite good, but it was those were the days when it wasn't too many bullets flying around, so it was kind of a holiday camp, but
Yeah.
they were still very strict about short back and sides and no beards and so on and so forth. So that was probably the only thing,
And
in the '60s, of course, that's what you wanted: sideburns and long hair.
It was as far back as the '60s. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you who your commanding officer was. I was in A Company 2RR.
Now you're asking me. In second bat, don't know. First bat, I was in OPA, so we were, out of the prescribed area. So I was lumped in with all the farmers and miners and foresters and the like. That was prior to Part 2 being set up. So we were like in a unit, and we only ever had one call up, which I think I covered in my last talk.
Right. And 9th Battalion?
9th Battalion, Gene Vickery was our lieutenant colonel. Very nice chap. I was in C Company for many years. He was our major there at one time, and then Colin McFarlane, Major McFarlane, took over from him. And then just as I was leaving the company, Peter Blatch, Major Blatch, he took over C Company, Peter Blatch. And I went into, that's what I did my I course, and I ended up down at Rhodesia as a IO and such as a sergeant. But I didn't have a sort of commanding officer at the time. It was chaps came and went, whoever was running the job at the time.
Mm-hmm. And it's unusual that they mix you up between a Bulawayo battalion and a Salisbury-based one. What was the reason for that? Did you have to go up to Mashonaland to serve in one RR?
No, I had supposedly a temporary transfer, but it ended up staying there a couple of years. So that's when they moved me, because I was permanently based in Salisbury for a couple of years. They sent me to OPA.
Right, okay. Well, let's get into the thrust of the talk, which is the second battle of Entumbane in Bulawayo. For our foreign viewers and people who've just tuned in for the first time, when Rhodesia became Zimbabwe on the 18th of April 1980, it became Zimbabwe obviously at that point, and less than a year later, a conflict broke out between Mugabe's forces, which is Zandla, and Nkomo's forces, which are called Zipra. And there was always tension between them, even during the liberation struggle, as some people call it. they would, although they were allies, if they met each other, particularly in the southwest of the country, they would have a real go at each other and have major contacts. So the reason for this happening, amongst many other reasons, is that political ideology, and also there were different tribes. The Zebra guys down in the southwest were very much an offshoot of the Matabele, the Ndebele people, and the Shona, who were up in the north, were Shona, more of a Bantu tribe from up north. And the Zebra guys back in the old days used to, before the white man arrived, used to raid the Shona kraals and steal all the women and kids and kill the men. So that there was a lifelong friction between them, and they overlooked that while they were allies fighting the white government. But as soon as we were out of the way, the old hatred sprung up, and it coalesced into a battle between the forces in Bulawayo in 1980, and then again in 1981. So the battles 1 and 2, as you've seen from the written preamble to this video. But Wayne experienced some action in the second battle, which we're going to talk about now. So Wayne, could you just give us a start on your talk?
Fine, Tony, thanks. I think for your viewers, I need to probably have perhaps talk about before the state of play and at the time of independence. As a lot of people know, we were all the forces were called up for the elections, and I was sent down to Rhodesia, having known the area, been there for some time, and we all hung around. Our job was to when the signal came, to take out the assembly point nearest to Rhodesia. That signal never came through, and we were left standing looking at each other, and the boss said, "Look, best you go, take your vehicle and go back to Bulawayo," which I did. And on the way back to Bulawayo, I handed my vehicle. We weren't allowed to keep our weapons then, so I had to hand my FN and magazines and so on. And our RSM was there. He said to me, "Look, we've got a meeting coming up next Thursday, very important, and I wanted to attend it." That was at the sergeant's mess. So the following Thursday, I went around the sergeant's mess, and the story then was that he said, with immediate effect, all the messes in Brady Barracks were to be closed down. And the rumor was that the 2nd, 6th, and 9th battalions were going to be amalgamated and form the 269 rifle regiment, rifle battalion. As he said, it was all up in the air, and nothing was definite. We were told just go home. We still had obviously we still had all our webbing and other clothing and so forth. So we went back, and we were told that we would eventually hear through by post what's going to be happening to us. Now the regular units like the RNI, SAS, and Zulu Scouts, they actually had a final parade. The colours were laid down and disbanded. In amongst those units was a great number of the actual servicemen and TA members. So they were basically all stood down. But for us, the 9th Battalion, we were supposed to have a medals parade, and we were still waiting for that. So yeah, that was us. We were just told to mark time and we'll hear from them. But as it turned out, it didn't happen. Now, the probable causes of the fighting that started up, you mentioned Entumbane 1, which I have no recollection of actually, but I wasn't involved. But in January of 81, Joshua Nkomo was at Independence. He was a cabinet post was given to him as Minister of Internal Affairs, which covered the police, and obviously the police had the support units. So it was quite a high-powered position. But in January of that, they got rid of him. He was fired. And I believe that was probably one of the causes of the Zipper forces, which were loyal to Joshua and Pullman. And I think that was probably the spark that they needed, that their boss was fired. And they, as you mentioned early on, this aggro between them became a little bit hairy. Fighting took place between them. One of the barracks was at Connemara, which was the barracks that was situated between Gwello and Quickray. It's about 145 k's out from Bulawayo. And then, of course, there was some fighting that took out at Glenville Barracks. Glenville Barracks on the map was the letter K, Kilo. The RAR put down the uprising at Connemara and at Glenville as well. And at that time, the powers had been decided that they need to send down some armored cars down to Bulawayo to in case there was a bigger flare-up. And they sent down some artillery as well, I believe. But one of the things that Mugabe did that when he kind of left, particularly the 1st Battalion of the RAR, which was based in Bulawayo, it's always been in Bulawayo, he kind of left them be. So there were still European officers. Some of the units were commanded by African officers. But I think he was quite clever in doing that because he knew that the RAR in particular would be loyal to the government of the day. So he kept them sort of still basically bad with the RAR, whilst all the integration was going on. I think it was in February, serious fighting broke out at Entumbane. Entumbane is in the western suburbs. It's on Juliet, letter Juliet on your map. Fighting broke out between Zipra, Zanda, which was Mugabe's stuff, and the RAR. So that became quite serious. And I think at that time, Zipra decided that we need to get some reinforcements. Unbeknown to them, though, was the RAR had put up a couple of OPs. One of them was on the Essexvale Road. The Essexvale Road, some people refer to as the Johannesburg Road. The road that goes from Bulawayo down to South Africa, and the road terminates at the border of Beitbridge. So they had eyes out there watching if these guys make any false moves. And they also had some up on the Falls Road and out on the Bulawayo Road. Now, why the Falls Road? Because a lot of Zipra armor was moved out of Zambia to a place called Dry River Mine, which was a mine that had closed down during the Bush War. And funny enough, the SAS used that as a training base for some time. But a lot of this armor was there.
Actually, Wayne, just an interjection at this point, I read in the synopsis from, I think, Alan Doyle, that there were three trains that came over from Zambia, carrying a total of 2,000 tons of equipment belonging to Zipra. And one of them was intercepted and sent to, I think, Brady Barracks or one of the other barracks, the equipment on there. But the other two was sent to a siding not too far from Dry River Mine, and they managed to get all the kit off from there and go into that base. So just a little interesting snippet there, but please carry on. Thank you.
Yeah, that's correct, Tony. It's so that one lot went to Dry River Mine, and the other lot was sent down to Bulawayo. And on the road to the Johannesburg Road, it goes to a village called Essexvale in the day. And Essexvale, our military forces had a battle camp there. And so it was set up that the other half of the Zipra forces would be sent to the Essexvale camp. And again, there they had armor, the BTR 152s. They had some heavy, there were a few tanks there. And there was also mortars, heavy weapons, and the like. So that was where the two Zipra forces were. And that's why they put this OP on the Essex-Vale Road in case any of these guys got restless, when they come to town. So that was the situation there. 11th of February, this evening, 11th of February, the RAF forces, together with the armored cars, the Eland 90s, they were based up at Brady Barracks. Brady Barracks was the letter Delta on your map, and they got wind that the forces from the Essex-Vale area were heading towards Bulawayo. That caught sight that they had observing an OP sent through the message. So they mobilized the RAF and the tanks, the Eland 90s, and they came out of Brady Barracks, took a left, first right, got into what is George Avenue, and when they got down to, there's an intersection there. Although people will be familiar with it, it's where the Ascot Centre is, and just behind the Ascot Centre is the Holiday Inn. And when they got up to the traffic lights, they saw this BTR 152 channeling along through the lights, and the Eland 90 opened fire and took this thing out. Now they weren't sure at the time whether that was the beginning of the convoy coming into town or the end of it. Now that action took place on your map, letter Mike, and so that even was taken out. Now on Mike 1, which I only found out about later, a BTR actually preceded this particular one, and it crashed into a tree, not that far from where the first one was taken out. Crashed into a tree near the fountain, which is in the Boy Centenary Park, and the drivers and people absconded, but it was only found later the following day. Now Sergeant Devine was the chap in charge of the armored cars, and they decided together with the RAF, they took a left at those traffic lights and headed out going south down the Essex-Vale Road, or the Joburg Road, or something people call it. And they got to a position where there was a motel called the Hilltop Motel. And a Hilltop Motel, as it says in its name, there's a bit of a from the top of where the motel is, the road takes quite a dip down into a river. And so they set themselves up there, set up ambushes, shut out all the lights, all the street lighting. So they got themselves nice and dark and waited to see if anything else was coming up the road. That particular where they set up the ambush was the letter of November, end from November on your map.
Yep.
Now Sergeant Devine saw the two of these BTRs coming up the road, and he took both of them out. 2 shots and they were done. Shortly after that, the other 2 arrived, but they quickly surrendered. Hands up, and they surrendered themselves. But one of them took off down a side road. But there was a police vehicle in the area, and the police vehicle actually rammed this BTR, and the thing came to a stop. So that was the end of that one. And then there was all action going on at the same time. There was a Peugeot staff car that also came up the road, and seeing what was going on, and they also tried to sneak down one of the side roads, and there was an RAR section there, destroyed the vehicle totally with machine gun fire. So all this action took place sort of really quick, one after the other. The killed in action is there was no figures. There was unknown number of casualties of KIA killed in action. And at the same time, there was the RAF had set up another ambush site on what is known in Bulawayo as the old Essex Railroad, which in the days when it was still the strip road, if you come off the main Bike Bridge Road, there's a slip road that goes off and joins up to this old, the old Essex slip road. And lo and behold, a brand new Land Cruiser came up. Now that on your map is Oak Oscar. The Land Cruiser came up, and they actually stopped at the roadblock, and there were 6 Zipper inside the Land Cruiser, and they were actually captured by the RAL stick. As I say, this all happened on that evening, and from there, that particular evening, I was actually at Old Rotarian Sports Club with an officer from 9RR. He was the major in 9RR. A friend of mine, he phoned me up 2 days before to say he'd offered to take me down fishing to his family had a nice bass stand down in the southwest. And on that particular evening, he was showing the film about bass fishing. So I actually went along, watched the movie. And as I was leaving, when we left afterwards, we got out into the car park, and you could see, it was quite high up, you could see into the western suburbs. And it was like Eiffel, it was just made huge explosions, and traces were going all over the place, and loud bangs. It was quite a show. So I knew that, the date of the rest of the night. So I took a drive down into the town centre, but it was dead quiet. No one could be seen. I went home and off the bed. And the next morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang, and it was Dudley. And he was the officer from the 9RR. And I thought, my first thought was, it's a bit early to probably go fishing now. No, but in fact, he said to me, "Wait, the enemy is coming into Bullwater. They're overrunning the place, and could I get together as many guys as I can find and get them down to Brady Barracks?" Brady Barracks, as I mentioned before, is letter Delta on your map. The chaps around me, my house was on the corner, directly opposite. One friend was in Sanger Lodge, recovering from some shrapnel and taking a brain. My other friend across the road was intact, but he was on leave. And the other chap across the X9R, he just left the country 3 days before. So there wasn't too many people to call up, and so, I donned my camo and picked up all my stuff. Obviously, was always ready to move out. All I had to do was fill my water bottles, and I was gone. Got to Brady Barracks, and as I was pulling into the barracks, there was a tow truck in front of me with one of these BTR 152s that had been shot out. So I actually followed it down to a friend parked outside the MC hangar. And I parked my car and went down there and looked at it. And I don't know if when you look at the front of the vehicle, there's 2 armor-plated glass windows in the thing. And in between, there's probably, I don't know, 200 millimeters of steel. And that Enid 90 had put that round right dead center between those 2 windscreens. And obviously smoked everything that was in the back. And you look in the back there, it was just bits and pieces of human flesh. It was like smoke there for sure.
Oh.
So I went up to, there was a huge crowd there, obviously, I don't know, probably a couple of 100 chaps hanging around. I didn't know what was going on. I was looking for somebody that I knew. And I came across a friend of mine who was in the 6th Battalion, he was ex-RNI chap. And Bob said to me, "Wait, I'm off. Where are you going?" And I said, "I've just arrived. I don't know what the hell's going on." And he says, "Well, I'm going out to Essexville to the battle camp." But he said, "If you'd like to join me, go get yourself a weapon and some ammo and come and join me." So I said, "Fine." So I went down to the army. Obviously, there was a queue there. Still not knowing what was going on. Drew a weapon and the ammunition, and loaded my magazine. So then I had on there, my chest ready, put everything away. Went up to find Bob, and Bob, I said to him, right, where do we go? And he says, I'm not going now. And I said, well, why is that? He said, well, I've got 20 guys and I've asked for 10 MAGs with as many belts as they could spare. He said, because, we're going to the battle camp, we don't know how many guys are there, and I need some firepower.
Yeah.
And he was told, no, we're not issuing any MAGs. So he asked them to get his rocket launchers with RPGs. They said, no, you're not listening. We're not giving you any automatic weapons or anything else. Take your FN and that's it. So he told them, I'm not going. And he said, forget it. You find some other idiots to go. I'm not going to go.
Wayne, who is issuing the weapons? Was it like blacks,
No, it was
Zimbabwean officers or something giving you a hard time?
No. It was the only officers that I saw there standing in the background were the three chaps who were they wear those big Russian type caps, ugly-looking things. There were three of them there. I didn't recognize them, but they were standing there in the background. But the chaps issuing the weapons were, I'm not sure, more than likely from the 2nd Battalion, I would say. But it was a European chap. I don't know. He was just issuing that stuff, and doing as he was told. That was it.
How did you feel psychologically over this? I mean, if I'd been in your shoes, the war had been over now 18 months or whatever, your kit was all moldy and you're standing there being told to fight for Zimbabwe. I would have really rebelled against that. How did you feel? How did you overcome that?
I think the fact was that Boya is my hometown, and these guys had no right to come here and take it, by force, sort of thing. That was kind of my feeling. I don't know. It was I didn't think it the whole thing through. To be honest, I sort of thought, I must go do what I have to do. So when I got back, when I left Bob, there was I recognised that there was a captain from the 9er, and he saw me and he said to me, "You're a driver, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I want you to drive this vehicle for me." And the vehicle parked close by, and he said, "We're going to Entumbane." And I said to him, "Entumbane, I don't know." I said, "I don't." Entumbane, in fact, was a fairly new suburb in the western suburbs. And I said to him, "It's a new suburb. I know the western suburbs reasonably well." I said, "But to get to Entumbane, I have no clue." And another chap came in, he said, "I'm a driver and I know where Entumbane is." So he said, "Oh, good, well, you can drive it." So he jumped into the vehicle. It was a map. For your viewers, that's a mine and ambush protected vehicle. It kind of looked at the sides are sort of that kind of shape. And they've got little portholes on the side where you could actually put your rifle through and shoot through it. And then if you want to, if you've got your rifle through there, you can put a little lever that you can close the porthole. So he said to me, "Right, jump on the vehicle and you come in with me." So I got on the back of the vehicle, and it was probably I don't know, about 20 of us, I guess, something like it, probably 5, 6, around about that. And the first thing I noticed when I got on there is that there's no MAGs, So what Bob told me was correct, and of course there was no radios, and we were only one vehicle. And you know yourself, as a former officer, the rules and regulations were one vehicle doesn't go on its own. It's 2 vehicles, and you have a radio at each section for each stick. At least one radio on the vehicle, but it started with nothing. And I thought to myself then, I said, this doesn't going to bode good. I think we're in trouble here. But yeah, off we went, and we got to the gates of Brady, and the instruction to us was then, "Listen, guys, we do not shoot until we get shot at. And if there are any looters, and you see, those you can shoot on sight." But that was our instruction, So we thought, okay, fine. So as we drove through town, obviously it was being quiet, with nobody around, got into the western suburbs. And the western suburbs was known in the old days as the location, which was mainly reserved for the black folk. And that was also delivered the soul to be seen. All those roads with nobody there, no one is on bicycles or walking around and things. So it's quite eerie, in fact.
And what was your task apart from shooting leopards and
well,
that type of thing?
our task was to actually go to Entumbane. Because the RAR were, as I mentioned earlier on, they got into a bit of a punch up between, they were sort of between Zipper and Zola. They were trying to put the fire out, so to speak. So they had I think it was a company street based in Entumbane, and so they were there for some time, and our task was to go there and help out because they thought they might be a bit short in terms of manpower.
Yeah.
So that was the motive for us to go there was to help out the RAR.
So looking on the map, Juliet was just west of where of item 3 on the map. And is that where the fighting was taking place?
Yes, that's right.
Or was it further northeast in 1, 2, and 4?
No, it's Juliet. At Juliet. On the map, you'll see the RAR called it the Alamo.
Yeah.
Sort of the last fight of the Alamo.
Yeah, brilliant.
That was someone's humor. Yeah, so that was where we were heading. And when you also on the map, it does actually show Lurker's Ridge, but I'm not quite sure that was where the road that we went down. But it was very, very open on our left-hand side of the vehicle.
Lurker's Ridge is east of 3, where the two arrows are. Yeah,
correct. So it's as we go through the western suburbs, we come out on there. It's fairly open there, and that's why they put up that new township there.
So from my point of view, you were sent to a sensible place to stop those guys, perhaps moving west onto that road and then southeast into the city centre or something like that. Yeah,
you see, a lot of the enemy were mobile. They were moving around. They were all over the place. Getting up to no good, and then every now and then when they met up with each other, a punch up would happen, and then the RAR were around there. They had to go to the RAR as well. So it was like a 3-way dogfight. It was so it was, yeah. As I say, getting into that Lurker's Ridge area. I was actually standing up at the time, and with the bullets going to your head, you hear the crack, and there was a crack, and I ducked down there and I shouted that we were under fire. And of course, a lot of the chaps didn't have their portals open, and they opened them up and get the gates out there. They said, "Can we open up?" And nobody could see anything, so we didn't know where it was sniper fire or what it was. But a little bit further on, we came across some guy shouted up, "There's the enemy!" And I got up and had a look, and sure enough, there were 4 of these chaps walking, but they were walking away from us at an angle. The one in front had an RPG, the next 2 had RPGs, sorry, RPG-7s, and the chap at the back had an AK. But they were walking away from us, and the officers said, "Leave them alone, they're not harming anybody," not knowing who they were. They certainly looked like enemies to me, but I'd say we weren't sure whether RAL were either at that stage. And not further along that road, it opened up again, and again I was standing up, and the shots came over the top, and then of course ducking down. And then we started taking strikes on the outside of the vehicle, on the left-hand side of the vehicle, but obviously with the protection of the armor plating on the vehicle, those were just ricocheting off to that. But you could hear the things that going along.
Did you have any RAR guys following you or in support at that point, or were you all on your own?
No, we were on Jack Jones. It was just us, one vehicle, and with plenty of us in the vehicle, armed with FNs, and that was nothing else. So we proceeded, kept on going, and then the third, we had the third one carried us, again, shooting high, and obviously those of us were standing up to duck down again. And then, of course, there was a number of shots that hit the side of the vehicle as well. That's a lot of the, by then, a lot of the portholes were closed. You know, we're told not to fire back, so it was pointless to keep your rifle out there, you know. So, and then the driver stopped and he said, there was a building in front of him. He said, here we are. So we all looked around and thought, no, this is not really RAR, you know. And he said, no, it was the municipal officers for Entumbane, but it wasn't where it wasn't where the Alamo was, you know. It was just the municipal office. So the officer spoke to the driver and said, do you know where the beer hall is? Because that's where they were based up, was at the beer hall, which they called the Alamo. And he said, no. He said, I only know this place. So that was it. So anyway, he said, look, he must take up, do all around the fence. And I think he went to see the officers were all close, obviously. But I think, you know,
so who was in command of the 20 guys?
There was a captain from 9 I won't mention that. But yeah, he was in charge. Anyway, we debussed and all around the fence, and I needed to have a leak, so I went round to the side of the building, and lo and behold, there's two youngsters there. I'm not sure what side they were on, but they were both armed with AKs. I knew straight away they were the enemy, and I wasn't sure whether, I don't know who got a bigger fight, them or me, but you know, the look of surprise on their eyes, and they just turned around and slowly walked away from me. And I thought, I was pointless in shooting these guys because, you know, it's just, what's the point kind of thing? Not doing us any harm. Rightly or wrongly, I don't know. But they just walked away. They didn't even look back. They just took off and a slow walk and looked at me. I did tell them, I said, there's two guys out the back here, there's these below. Anyway, so we then told them, get back on the vehicle. We're heading back to town. And I'm guessing that the officer took that for himself. There were mutterings in the back of the vehicle as to what the hell are we doing here? Because I think, you know, if we'd arrived with the RAR, it would be a different story. But the fact that we were in the middle of nowhere, there's no coffers or anything like that. I think the guys were getting a bit beady, you know, the guys said. And they said, look, why don't we just go home and drive our own place and let these guys fight it out, you know? So that was the majority rule, because the captain said, turn the truck around, we came back. So we headed off back to Fulaway. And for whatever reason, we ended up at a scout hall opposite the Hamilton High School in the European suburb and such. And we were told we were going to bed down there for the night and wait further instructions. I thought, well, what instructions? But there was a telephone there, and I'm guessing, and I don't know for sure, I'm guessing that the officer phoned Grady Barracks and said, look, we're here, what do you want us to do? My understanding was there were other vehicles that went out and sort of patrolled around Bulwer CBD, just in case anybody, there was anybody lurking around. But that was kind of where we were, you know. That was there's a little bit that went on, but that involved you. I don't think it's. I mentioned it in the other program, but it didn't affect Entumbane as such. So I think I'll just leave that out. Buddy.
And was there still fighting going on in the suburbs while you were there?
Yes, yes. I know they had a full go at each other, and you know the RA. I think what happened was when you know the RAR they were quite badly watered that particular day, and they had a couple of casualties. Not sure how many, but yeah, but they gave back better than they got. They took out a lot of guys. So the numbers are not known. A figure of something like 400 were killed in those skirmishes, but no deaths to the RAF. RAI had, I think, 2 or 3 guys wounded. I think one sort of serious, but it was minor. But yeah, they were well dug in and they were good soldiers, so they gave better than they were given. So and I think slowly things are quieting down. I do know that the powers that be, I'm not sure who it was. I think it might have been one of the bosses of the RAF, together with some of their leaders. They went out to the Essex Round and told the chaps to surrender. And the guys I know it's at Rye River Mine, the Air Force had a couple of hunters up and down the Falls Road, and I think they were also told best to lay down your arms, time's over now. So the next morning, we ended up going back to Brady Barracks. There was no debrief or anything like that. They just said, hand your weapons in. Thanks very much. Have a nice day. No pay, nothing. We got in our cars and went home. And then I thought, well, if nobody phones me again, I'm not going. I thought that was it. I've done my bit, no more.
Wow. And what happened to the other 200 guys that were milling around when you first went to Brady Barracks?
Well, I don't know what happened to the chaps that were supposed to go out to the battle camp. I don't think it actually happened at the best of my knowledge. And as I said, they went around in other vehicles. They took up some other vehicles and sort of basically drove around, sort of a show of strength, or keep the local population aware that the military are out and about. But obviously we had no communication with them at all. But, as I say, with no radios, we didn't know where they were. All I know is that some of the guys said we just drove around town and basically that was it.
Yeah.
So that was us. 3 ambushes in the day. And there's one thing I want to add as well. I didn't see this myself. But I was speaking to one of the chaps on the left-hand side. Just after we saw these 4 guys, a little bit further before the first shots actually hit the vehicle, he said that an RPG-7 was fired at us, but it landed short, and it was in an old mini field, a cloud field. So it landed there and never detonated for whatever it is. And he said he saw a lot of tracer coming across as well. But that I didn't see myself, but that was because it was on the left-hand side. I was sitting on the right-hand side of the vehicle at the time. I didn't see the actual rocket coming at us, but if it hit us, it would have been a different story.
Yeah, from the timeline I've read on this battle, they never really figured out how many Zipper and Zandler were killed. Did you hear of any bodies coming in or piles of bodies?
There was, in the Bulldozer Chronicle, the local press, local newspaper there, they said there were railway truckloads of bodies. I wouldn't say that sort of stuff, but they did mention there was, they said hundreds, but I think the RAR, from what I've read, is that I don't think it was an official body count as such. There were certainly thousands wounded, but the figure that I've got would be around about 400 mark, perhaps more, but I don't think anybody ever did any proper calculations on that.
And any evidence of lighter aircraft apart from the Hunters? I think I read somewhere that there was a Lynx or something involved.
Yeah, there was a Lynx flying around above Entumbane. We had absolutely no communication with RAL whatsoever. They were doing their own thing. They were the regular soldiers. We were we were just called up to try and help them out, but never materialized.
Mm.
But I didn't see any hunters. The hunters were being on the Falls Road. They were further out, probably around buzzing Dry River Mine. Letting people know that if they come out, they're going to be in trouble.
Mm.
But that's about it. From my side, it was.
And the armored cars, were they manned by national servicemen or guys like yourselves? That
I'm not sure because the the armored cars as such were still operating, and I think they were national servicemen, as I understand it. The sergeant that was in charge, Divine, I think he was a regular. He's unfortunately, I think he passed away some years back, but he got a bronze medal for his actions on that night. Because without him, certainly these VTRs would come into town and caused quite a bit of. And because they are armed with a 12.7, and it could do some serious damage.
yeah.
So yeah, he got a bronze medal. I think it's called it was a Zimbabwean bronze medal.
Zimbabwe Bronze Cross. In fact, as we're talking, I'll be asking John to put up a list of people who got bronze crosses, military crosses, and other crosses. A baton cross or something. I know the pilot of the Lynx, I think, got a cross, but it'll be on display as we're talking now. I'll ask John to put that there, which is quite incredible. So some guys must have been involved in some really serious fighting to get a bronze cross.
Yeah, well, as I say, I mean, the Major Dyke, who was the RAR commander at the time, he's recently passed away, I understand. He got a Silver Cross in Zimbabwe. As I said, Sergeant Divine, armored cars, he got a Bronze Cross. And I think the guy who took me was Lieutenant Bill. I think he was flying the Lynx. And then there was also another Bronze Cross given to Major Usher and W2 Gilbert from the RAL. And commendation medals were the Zimbabwe Commendation Medal to Second Lieutenant Max Chinyanganya and Flight Lieutenant Colin James. So the Air Force guys, because there were helicopters out, we saw a couple of helicopters. I didn't see the Lynx and I didn't see the Hunters, but yeah, those. I think those guys really, if it wasn't for the RAR, the good soldiers they were, and the fact that whoever thought of sending down the armored cars down to Bulawayo, yeah, that it certainly would have been a silver bullet. I mean, if they'd got in there, who knows what would have happened, you know. The guys from the Dry River Mine would come to Bulawayo, and the guys from the Essex Rail Battle Camp would have also come to Bulawayo, and then Bulawayo would be obviously taken over. So, you know, Matabeleland would be Matabeleland against the Shoreland.
Yeah, 1-0. Those little noddy cars, the Elands with the 90 mils, were fearsome little weapons. I'm going to be interviewing a South African guy fairly soon who took out 5 T-55 tanks in the war in Angola. So that's pretty impressive that little noddy car could do that. Well, in fact, it was a Rattle with a 90 mil on it. But
well, yeah, the Rattles that, in fact, what they did was they took the turret off the noddy car, stuck it onto the Rattle.
Yeah.
And it was a very effective weapon.
Yeah, very effective.
I've actually read the book about my cousin's husband. He was in the 61 Armored Brigade. They were in Rattles.
61 Mech, yeah.
61 Mech, yeah. And yeah, they did some serious damage.
They
also
did.
got a few of them blown up as well. But
yeah,
that's a super weapon. That 90 mil.
Yeah, I watched the noddy car at Kazangula. I had a bit of a scene with the Zambians, and
yes,
they took out the Zambian bunker. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah,
As the round went over the river, it left like a shockwave on the water.
yeah,
And this plug, I don't know what it was, like a plug seemed to fly out afterwards, which skipped across the water. But then the smoke and the debris coming out of the bunker was very impressive.
yeah.
And the relevant
It's-
ambulances coming to get the dead and wounded after that.
yeah,
Um, but I'm going to be interviewing, hopefully, if I can get hold of Roy Pitchford, Major Roy Pitchford. He was in either Entumbane 1 or 2. He said that the guys in the armored cars that fired at the BTRs were actually black national servicemen.
okay.
And
Yeah, I think Sergeant Devine was in charge overall, but
yeah,
yeah, they were probably national servicemen,
yeah.
or regular.
Mm. But very interesting. I'm hoping to turn this into a series and just get more and more people to talk on it. I do apologize to you for saying I've had a poor description of these battles when you've actually talked about it before, but I'm hoping to get other guys on board to give their versions, to give a complete overall picture of the whole battle. I think for historical reasons, it'll be good to do that.
Yeah, certainly from the guys that were at the Alamo, you know, yeah, they were for a number of days being shot at mortars. So if you get somebody from that side, that would be good. As I say, you know, the best of my knowledge is that's what happened. Certainly to those on that evening, you know, when they came into town. But the actual battle act in the body itself, between Zipperzana and yeah, we need to speak to one of those chaps.
Yeah, I think I have interviewed one guy, but you know, my brain is terrible. I can't remember who I've interviewed. I've interviewed 4 people in the last week, and I can't remember who they are. But I know I did interview one guy that's already spoken on the Alamo, and I'm going to get him back to feed it into this trilogy or quadrilogy of talks. That's what I plan to do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Super, Freddie.
No, well, thank you very much, Wayne. It's very interesting. Just the whole thing. You know, maybe a couple more questions. Did you ever get any thanks from the Zimbabwean government or senior officers for guys that really were the enemy at one point coming in and helping them, or they just turned their back on you?
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
In fact, in 1982, just to finish off about the TA, in 1982, we still hadn't heard, but there was somebody was involved. It was a European. He was involved in either manufacturing camo kits or using old camo kits, but he was gathering, and he had more kit than he should have had. You know, in other words, they had like 30 pairs of denims, you know, that sort of thing. And he was picked up by the CIO, and it wasn't long after that it was in the newspapers, and we were, and also got a call to say that we go and hand in our all our equipment, all our camo, webbing. As I say, we still haven't been, to this day, we never been stood down. So I'm still on strength officially. 40 years later, yeah, it's I went down to Brady and handed in all my webbing, all my stuff from the National Service, and shoes and KD longs and shorts.
Oh, what a pity, because it's selling on eBay for a fortune now.
Yeah, well, we were told that if you ever fought with military equipment, yeah, you'll be in trouble, you know, with the CIO. So look, we took that quite serious, because you know there's friends of mine that have been put in jail and that, and it's not pleasant, that.
No, not
and they could, you know, for a denim shirt, you could be put in jail for a week. You know, don't want to be. It's not worth it. You know?
No, it's not worth $150 on eBay.
Yeah.
Or maybe more now. The original kit's got a high demand on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, and the award ceremony for the Bronze Cross, was that formal, or did they just put it through the post?
Well, I don't know. I was supposed to be on a medal parade for a long service medal, but that never happened either. So
typical lack of decorum, really.
Yeah, I know. You got it through the post.
It's that mentality that just freaks me out. Looking back on it, obviously at that stage, you might not have been thinking politically. Bangs are going on, want to defend home and hearth. But many years later, do you regret fighting for Zanla at that point? That's effectively what you're doing. Our old enemy. I've always thought that Zipper and the Entumbane would have been better people to rule. We should have joined forces with them. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Certain thing, a lot of people have just recently. There's been the anniversary of the shooting down of the Viscounts,
yes.
and I'm one of those that don't believe in that. I believe there was sabotage. I'm sure there was a bomb put in there, because if you look at it, at the timings of when those things were supposedly shot down, you know, they were within minutes of each other, but in totally different areas. This doesn't make any kind of sense to me, especially with the second one. I mean, it went down. The first one was on a dedicated route. So you could say maybe, you know, somebody was sitting waiting for it. But the second one was on a totally different route altogether, way over the other side. And, I believe that was sabotage. That I really do.
To get coordination like that's profound, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, when you look at the where the explosion supposedly took place, you know, both on the same side, in the same area, at the same time from leaving the airport, both on different routes altogether. How can these guys be, you know, particularly, as I say, circumstantial evidence maybe for the first one, but the second one was way off. It's normal flight line, and you want to tell me, you know, rugged girls there in Zambezi Valley that some guy was sat waiting there with a Strela? I don't think so. That's my own belief anyway.
It's an interesting point of view.
I think Anderson mentioned that as well. You know, he's also a bit skeptical. You know, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that was obviously a big shock to the local folk, and I think that's what put it against Zipper. But I think you're right, because you know, I've brought up all my life in that immediate land, and there's certainly a better person than those 50 shot at. You know.
Yeah, there was white hot anger in the country when that happened. I think
yes,
if our commanders had said, "Get over there and take out Zambia," we would have all run to get our weapons to join in.
correct. Yeah.
It was just absolute fury in the hearts of many people.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved flying on those Viscount aircraft. I went home on R&R once from Vic Falls to Kariba, and when I was at Kariba, a whole plane load of girls got on because they'd been sent up there from South African tourist companies to get samples of Rhodesia's beauty, and well, that ended up in a 3-day delight. That's all I can say, because they adopted me. 3 days of absolute delight, even in the presidential suite of the Monumentapa. But those were the days.
Lovely, lovely.
On that very, very pleasant, uplifting, stimulating note, we'll end this talk. Yeah. And
okay.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Much obliged. Eh?
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Well done with this series. You're going well.
Thank you. And I'd once again appeal to everybody in the audience out there to please come forward and give your stories. We've not heard many lately from Special Forces. So come on, guys. You don't have to give us all the hard nitty-gritty. You can just give us a flavor of what you did. We need it for our history. Please subscribe, smack that bell, and remember, if you can, join Patreon and help support John. Thank you very much. Okay, cheers, eh?
Cheers, Tony. Bye-bye.
Take care, bye.